Nor was not a young man lost in some fantasy world. He was fairly strong for his age and well liked by everyone in the town. He worked a job that required heavy manual labor, yet even his boss admired his effort and never spoke a bad word about him, claiming Nor was the finest worker he had ever seen. One day, after collecting his daily wage, Nor was about to head home when he suddenly heard a woman's desperate scream for help echoing from a nearby cave. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the sound. Even as his boss warned him to stay back because it could be dangerous, Nor ignored every warning and entered the cave. Inside, he witnessed a girl bound in magical barbed wire while an adventuring party battled a massive demonic bull. Since childhood, Nor had always been forced to care for his mother and manage the household, as his father had never returned after going out to buy milk. He accepted this burden without complaint and took responsibility for the home. His mother was frail and confined to her bed most days, so Nor prepared hot soup for her, his body still covered in soot. He told her he was heading out to hunt rabbits so she could have some protein for dinner. As she gently wiped his face clean, she apologized for being unable to give him anything in life. Nor put on a brave smile and told her he didn't need anything at all. Later that night, he cooked a hearty rabbit stew for his mother. But when he returned to feed her, he found that she had already passed from this world. Now utterly alone, Nor buried his mother outside their house. He decided he would not allow himself to cry or grow weak. From then on, he lived by himself, tending the garden, hunting game, caring for farm animals, and studying inside his room after cleaning it thoroughly. He trained his body by catching wild fish, hauling heavy loads through the mountains, and consuming large amounts of protein every day. One lonely night, he climbed onto a chair, pulled out an old, dusty storybook, and began to read. The memories flooded back, times when his family was whole and his father would tell him stories of mighty adventurers. Tales of warriors who slew colossal dragons, learned magic from powerful wizards, lifted curses in haunted forests, and fought armies of elves. These stories had always captivated Nor, especially when his father said that an adventurer's duty was to protect the weak and ensure they were never harmed. Inspired by those words, Nor resolved to do something meaningful with his life. The next day, after caring for the animals, he prepared to leave his home and journey toward the city to pursue the path of an adventurer. He spent the night in the forest beside a campfire, and by morning, he arrived at the stunning city of his kingdom. Passing through the massive main gate, he was completely overwhelmed by the sight of countless people crowding the markets, merchants selling goods, and customers buying swords and fruit side by side. As he wandered, he noticed a man carrying a sword and decided to follow him, which eventually led him to the Adventurers Guild. Entering the building, Nor was greeted by a large, burly man at the reception instead of the thick, furry girl he had imagined. Disappointed but determined, he told the man he wanted to become an adventurer. The man dismissed him, saying the guild was no place for children and that he should think about his parents. Nor calmly replied that his parents were dead. This caught the fatty's attention, and he instructed Nor to visit the training school first. Though confused, Nor listened as the man explained that to join a guild, one must choose a school, complete basic training, select a class and skills, and only after graduating could they become an adventurer. Grateful for the information, Nor excitedly headed to a school with the goal of becoming the strongest swordsman. He enrolled and began sword training. However, weeks passed, and while other students awakened their magical potential, Nor remained without any magic. He continued practicing regardless. After several months, the instructor told him bluntly that he lacked talent and was wasting his time, advising him to join another school since he was unfit to be a swordsman. Refusing to give up, Nor moved on and chose to train as a warrior. Under the guidance of a large, fat redhead, he endured harsh training for months. Yet even then, the redhead told him he had no talent and had only learned how to parry attacks. Nor went on to try multiple schools, first as a hunter, but he was expelled. Then he attempted to become a thief, only to be rejected for lacking talent. He tried magic next and failed there as well. Finally, he chose the path of a healer, but even that ended in failure. Returning in disappointment, the fatty at the guild was shocked to learn that after spending months at every school, Nor had not gained a single skill. He told Nor that, sadly, there was nothing he could do to help him become an adventurer. Crushed by his own shortcomings, Nor left the city and returned to his small cottage in the woods. Yet even then, he refused to accept defeat. Determined to continue, he built his own training setup and picked up his sword once more. He chooses to focus entirely on perfecting the single technique he knows, the art of parrying and deflecting attacks aimed at him. Day after day, night after night, he trains relentlessly. After a full year of harsh practice, he becomes capable of parrying 10 attacks at the same time. Still unsatisfied, he continues training. 3 more years pass, and he eventually reaches the point where he can deflect 100 swords at once, yet gains no additional skills. He keeps pushing himself endlessly, training until his sword finally breaks. 14 years go by, and he realizes that he has trained every single day without rest. By now, he can parry 1,000 swords simultaneously without failure. Even after all that effort, he still hasn't gained any new abilities, but he decides to return to the Adventurers Guild once again. This time, he encounters a young girl who examines his skill set and advises him to visit the training school. When he tells her he has already gone through it, she is shocked, explaining that he lacks any skills required to become an adventurer. Nor doesn't let it discourage him, even when the fatty appears and barely recognizes him. They sit together over some drinks, and Nor explains how he has spent all these years training. The fatty tells him that adventurers are ranked from E to S, but even reaching E rank requires at least one skill, something Nor doesn't possess. Nor remains calm as the fatty reveals a lesser-known rank below E, F rank. F rank adventurers face heavy restrictions. They can't take monster-killing quests or work outside the city's forests. They're limited to odd manual labor within the city, jobs most people wouldn't want. To everyone's surprise, Nor immediately accepts. At last, he receives his adventurer's license. He begins doing small jobs around the city, such as carrying heavy cargo and searching for lost cats. Every night, he continues his training. He also takes on nursing work, caring for the elderly and cooking meals for them. Through all of this, he keeps training non-stop and appears genuinely happy, finally living as an adventurer who can truly help others. We then return to the present. A massive bull monster advances toward the adventurers and crushes their leader with a single swing of its axe, sending him flying into a wall. Nor rushes to check on him, only to find that he's already dead. Turning back, he watches as the bull effortlessly impales and slaughters everyone else in the area. The monster's gaze then shifts toward the white-haired girl. Nor reacts instantly, he hurls a rock to draw its attention and sprints away. The beast gives chase at an alarming speed, and Nor realizes escape isn't possible. He turns around and parries the bull's attack. To his shock, the parry is so powerful that it blasts the bull straight into a wall. The monster quickly recovers, leaping through the dust to attack again. Nor continues parrying strike after strike, knowing that a single missed parry would mean death. He searches desperately for an opening but realizes he lacks any offensive skills to strike back. His sword begins to chip away. When the demon suddenly turns its attention toward the girl and charges at her, Nor activates his feather step ability, boosting his speed and appearing in front of the bull just in time to deflect the blow, at the cost of his sword. He remembers his father's words, "An adventurer protects the weak, even if it costs his life." Standing firm with a broken blade, Nor faces the monster once more. This time, when the bull attacks, Nor parries with every ounce of strength he has left. The axe is deflected so violently that it rebounds and cleaves the bull's head clean off before embedding itself into the rocks. Blood sprays across the battlefield as the girl watches in shock, but the magical binding around her body fades away. Nor collapses, staring at his shattered sword, realizing just how close death had been. The girl rushes to thank him and asks for his name, but Nor simply replies that it isn't worth remembering before walking away. As he walks through the streets, he reflects on how he nearly died to a giant cow and understands that he must train even harder if he truly wants to become an adventurer capable of protecting others. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for part 2, and don't forget to check out this brand new anime about a failed hero who turns into a monster after being infected by a parasite, all while pretending to live a normal life.